Good evening. There's a special place in the non-secular afterlife for people who come to movies in the snow and rain, and it's called Center, and as close as you dare to the screen. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Really excited and honored to share this evening with you and with producer Albert Berger and writer-director Elizabeth Chomko. And we're going to talk after the film about the journey of making it, which is always, it's the only thing that can make a movie better is if you actually get to talk to the filmmakers afterwards. So we're lucky to have them. I want to thank everybody here at Lenfest, Gavin and his wonderful staff, the student staff. I want to thank Dean Carol Becker and Dean Wright. I want to thank the Columbia Narrative Medicine. Well, no, it's not the Columbia Narrative Medicine. Columbia Narrative Medicine. They are an entity unto themselves, and they co-sponsored this event, and we're very happy. Columbia School of Social Work and the Mailman School of Public Health, who all came together to make this event happen. Indeed, it takes a village to raise a child, to nurture an elder, to make a movie, and to show a movie. So thank you all, and of course, to see a movie. Thank you. I don't think I'm going to say too much more in the form of introduction, except that this is a film about caregiving and family. And I can't think of anything else I'd rather talk about tonight, given the state of the world, the state of the weather. I think there's going to be a lot of... I'm just very honored that we're going to get to discuss the making of the film, this particular film. Because making a film, if you haven't gotten to do it, you can imagine it's very much about taking care of each other. And that's what this film is talking about, speaking to. So I won't say anything more. I'll let the film say it. I'll see you after. And there's a photo coming up, right? We'll wait for it. So the song,
people interested.
Yeah, the song we just heard was written by Elizabeth and her mother, and I'm really glad it's there because I think we all needed the song to transition back into this space. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Pat and Cliff. Oh, stunning. Oh, wow. That's great. Well, thank you. I didn't introduce myself when I introduced the film. My name is Hilary Brougher. I'm the chair of the film division. And again, I'm with Elizabeth Chomko and Albert Berger. Elizabeth is a playwright. Am I doing that ringing noise? Okay, I hope not. Elizabeth is a playwright as well as an actress and, of course, a filmmaker. And Albert is a producer who's done many, many things. We're very proud that he's a graduate of the MFA program. And he's worked as a screenwriter. He's produced innumerable narrative documentaries. And also, both of you have executive produced, I believe, on The Leftovers. Is that right?
Yeah, my partner and I were, we're on The Leftovers.
Yeah, so I want to begin at the very source of the film, Elizabeth. You started writing.
It's yours.
Okay. And please just shout if I'm speaking too loudly or softly. I know these microphones are great, so I'm going to trust them. Can you tell us about where the material began, where the script began?
Sure. It is a very personal story that I wanted to tell. I think many years ago when I found a journal entry from when I was 25, which was like 10 years, I think, before I don't know, it was a long time ago. And then I was writing about my grandmother's Alzheimer's disease and how funny it was. And it wasn't something that I was ready for, like, that I had thought was going to happen. I thought when she lost her memory, what could possibly be funny anymore? And we were a family of laughers in Chicago. And so that was, I kind of was like haunted by that and meditating on that for a number of years. And then when my grandfather passed away quite suddenly, kind of quite like it is here, it just was like, I just couldn't bear the grief of it, honestly. I was the oldest grandchild, and everybody was so devastated, and I was like, as the oldest grandchild, I have to fix this. And so I wrote a screenplay intending to just preserve this memory that I didn't want to forget, right? You watch someone lose their memories, it makes you realize how precious yours are and that they're not something that lasts forever. And this was a memory I just didn't ever want to let go of. So I wrote it for my mom, and I wrote it for her brothers, and I wrote it for us, and I'd never thought I'd be sitting in front of all of you with the finished movie. So that's how it all came to be.
When you started writing, did you know where it was going to go?
I did, yeah. Well, I knew, once my grandfather passed away, I sort of figured out, because they had the most beautiful love story, really, I'd ever seen. And so this just like that this could be the end of this love story, that she just died, she just forgot him until he couldn't bear it anymore, and just that's sort of how it felt at the time, and I just couldn't bear that being the end of the love story. So I had to like figure out a new ending for the love story, and that was, I guess, writing it out, trying to find a new ending and spending time with them. We were laughing in the agreement about how often I would do rewrites.
Yeah,
but it was like, yeah.
I mean, I've never seen anything like it. Elizabeth, somebody would give her a note, or she'd think of something, and like a week or 10 days later, there'd be a whole new draft of the script. And she just had, clearly this was a story that you absolutely had to tell, and that was evident, from the first time we met you and read the script. So, it was something that had to get made. And it's a great thing for a first-time, writer-director to have that personal connection with the story you desperately need to get out there, because you go through a lot in trying to make a movie. And Elizabeth, was very single-minded and made it happen. So, yeah.
Where and when did your collaboration begin?
Well, for me, Elizabeth had the good fortune of both going to the Sundance Labs with the project, with the script, and working on it there. And then I was on the Nickel Award Committee. That's the Academy Screenwriting Award. And there's 7,000 submissions for that. And it boils down to 10 finalists. And then how many ultimately get it? There's five, and I was on the finalist committee. So that's where I had the good fortune of reading, the best 10 scripts. And Elizabeth's, I remember, I've been on this committee for 7 years. I've never seen this happen. Everybody in that group identified this as, this was everybody's script that they wanted. And then there were, they wanted to give the award to. There were 4 other ones that did very well, but I've never seen such unanimity about a script. So that was great, and that's how I read it. And my partner Ron and I learned about the script that way. But Bill Holderman, I think, may have known it through the Sundance Labs. I'm not sure, or was it the Nickel as well?
It was through our mutual agent.
Oh, okay,
I think.
okay. So anyway, we all loved the script. My partner, myself, and this other producer, and we all decided to join forces to try and tell the story, or help her tell the story.
It's an exquisite script on so many levels. What was the thing that knocked you out, Albert, and made you commit?
It was just such vivid characters, and it was so emotional yet very funny. It was that very difficult balance to find. It's almost like a terms of endearment sort of line that the movie walks. And it was Elizabeth's strong need to tell the story. And those things were all came through. So.
And you mentioned there were a lot of revisions. I'm curious, what was the biggest challenge in getting the script to the point where you both felt, hey, this is ready? What had to be learned or found or, discovered? Anything? Or is it just simply refining it and
Well,
getting
there were a
it
lot of
boiled
changes
down?
that it went through, as far as like, instead of daughter, it was a son at one point, and there were
Yeah.
things like that.
For me, I think I part of it was writing so much because I just wanted to hang out in this world and be with these people again, and I wasn't, and I also was very insecure, I guess, about being a first-time filmmaker, and I think the biggest challenge for me ultimately ended up being finding out, because a lot of people gave notes at the Sundance Lab. The notes were incredibly abundant. Yes.
Yeah, and I remember there was
a
people,
draft I did after that was totally different from me, essentially.
Yeah, because they wanted they wanted it to change as far as when Hilary's character realizes that her marriage is over, right? Wasn't there like some?
There was a lot.
Yeah, there were a lot of conflicting notes that you had to.
And I tried. I was like, well, just try them all.
Right.
and then I just kind of got off track. And so I think the biggest lesson in and what I really had to find was like that internal compass of figuring out which notes, because only you really know, right, as the storyteller, to know which notes are the right ones, and which to turn away. Anyway, so that I think was a big piece. But there were other pieces, like the Hilary arc was always challenging, the Bridget arc, where she is at the beginning with her marriage, like at an earlier draft, she was like already separated from her husband, and her father was giving her a hard time about it, and he knew, and then, but it's not quite as strong of an arc for her, if she's already kind of made the decision before the movie starts. So that piece, I think, was probably the biggest kind of challenge in the rewrite.
But the central thing was always the love story between the grandparents, as well as the dynamics between the different people in the family. And that's what really gets me every time is, the father-son relationship between Robert and Michael, and his desire to be acknowledged by Robert, and then the mother-daughter thing with Hilary and Thaisa Farmiga, and all of those mistakes going on. And it's the interrelationships that rang so true, I think.
Yeah, you make it look very, very easy, but I think to construct a film with so many character arcs, and there's a collective arc of the family unit changing in an essential way, I don't think that's an easy task. So it's really impressive, and really beautifully wrought. It's also affirming to hear that you had to kind of just keep coming back to the central love story, and it turns out you kind of knew where you were going from the beginning. And just had to kind of keep developing this through. When you brought it to actors, what changed? Anything or nothing?
Well, there was a lot going on. It wasn't just going to actors. It was also
financiers.
There were there were financiers, and there were it was kind of a forced coming together between Bill and my partner Ron and myself and Unified, who financed the movie, and so there was all those adjustments to make. But really, one interesting thing was that as we were leading up to production, we actually had a different actor was playing Nick, and Hilary was in very early.
Yeah,
and
she was first in, yeah.
And Robert was somebody that you had in mind, and we all loved from the very beginning. But besides that, it was a very fluid situation all the way up until 2 weeks before production, when this other actor fell out and everybody went home from Chicago. And then Michael Shannon ended up emerging and meeting with Elizabeth, and he loved the script and she talked him into it. And if not for that, this thing never would have happened.
Yeah, it was quite remarkable that he said yes and was willing to just jump in. It was actually I think it was like a week before we were like going to shoot. We were already there prepping, and
and then everybody went home, and then everybody came back.
Left.
And the amazing thing is, you almost can't imagine anybody but Michael Shannon playing that part. He's a Chicago actor. He's perfect for it. But he really came in and saved the movie.
Saved the movie. Yeah. And there were some, Hilary and I developed some of the script together. Parts of that. She helped with that arc piece that I was kind of talking about, and she has really strong instincts, and also having her and everything that she is, and like the piece of her being so kind of tightly wound and running, and that was all very much kind of written for Hilary, the woman that she is, the story she tells as a human being. So.
And she was a big factor she was an executive producer on the movie, and her early interest in it made it possible to move forward. But also, it was a very generous performance. I think she allowed both Robert and Michael to really shine by being the sort of glue in that dynamic. And I just have so much respect for what she brought to the role, and the generosity, really, of doing exactly what is right, but not trying to choose scenery or any. She let the other people really
shine,
do their thing.
Yeah, it's interesting. As an actress, she brought what the character brought to the family, which is this incredible generosity and desire to heal everybody.
Right.
And that's such an interesting connection between her work methodology and the character.
I just have to add, these actors met each other the night before we started filming. And,
That was my next question.
I just can't even believe it. They feel like such a family to me,
Yeah.
and they met the night before.
This is one of the perils of modern filmmaking, and often you find terrific actors, but they don't have time to rehearse. They're hopping from various production schedules, and they come together. And I'm wondering how, I know it sounds like you had time to prepare with Hilary as a through line, and then you had this energetic meeting with Michael. What were some of your other ways of working with these actors to get ready?
Well, I thought, we didn't have time to do any rehearsing, and so I did think we should have a dinner and at least get to know each other.
Family dinner.
And have a family dinner, and just try to get some comfort and connecting with each other, and just really natural.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I just felt.
I just have to add, the one thing I remember about that dinner was what a dick Michael was. He was such an asshole. And then it turned out he's a method actor, and he wasn't really friendly to me until after the movie was over, and then he was the nicest guy.
Oh yeah.
It's hysterical.
But I think that really, truly, they were all perfect for the roles.
Uh-huh.
I couldn't really. I think they were all so perfect for these roles that I just said, I just wanted them to run with it. I had written it really kind of messy. I'd written very specific dialogue, but I meant it as an approximation of what. I wrote it kind of messy, right? I wrote it like how people talk, but I really wanted it to be just them. Mm-hmm. So I just would be just play, let's just do whatever. I don't care if it doesn't sound right, don't say it. If you want to try something else, just, I just wanted them to feel like you are when you're with family. There's no filter, and there's no, you're not trying to be anything. You're just so comfortable, to a fault. And that's why people can be so badly behaved sometimes with their families, right? But it was really just about getting them super confident that these roles were really theirs and written for them and made for them, and they were meant to play it, and that worked.
It was a testament to the script, how well defined the characters.
But also to them, right? When you have seasoned actors like Robert, who's been in working, I don't know how many movies, he's been working for 52 years. And Blythe, who's been in so many, and Hilary and Michael, who's constantly working, they just get it. They just come on set and they just do it. They just get it, and they inspire each other and inspired young Thaisa, who was a little less experienced, and they inspired me. They taught me a lot. So.
Now, how did Blythe build this character? Because she's building a character and she's also exploring a physiological experience that's very specific.
Well, Blythe did probably one of the most courageous things ever. She had no experience with anyone with memory loss. And she came on very late in our sort of wham bam, thank you ma'am prep period. And she just put herself entirely into my hands. And she, and I really wanted this woman not to be a woman with a disease. I wanted her to be everything that she was before her diagnosis and everything she is all day, despite her diagnosis. I just think when somebody gets that illness, not the world doesn't stop, right? And their lives don't stop just because mom's sick. My grandmother was never just her disease. So I thought Blythe was perfect for that woman, whether or not she was perfect for the woman that I had written that was inspired by my grandmother. And then the physical manifestation, she watched a few videos, sent her a few videos of my grandmother at around the stage because my grandmother had Alzheimer's for 17 years. And the videos around the stage, and she picked up a lot of the mannerisms, and then she's just such a playful act. She really got the childlike quality. She has that. Blythe has that. So she just I just said run to that and just play and just, and we just kind of worked through each scene right before we would shoot it, if she had questions or whatever, and we just would play, and it was such a brave thing to do,
You always wanted an actress that didn't seem too old, that still seemed young and beautiful and all that. That was always important to you, I remember.
Yes, definitely, yeah. Yeah, and she has that in spades. She's such a light spirit, and that's how I remembered my grandmother being, so.
But the truth is, she said no at first because she had no experience with Alzheimer's, and Elizabeth was able to convince her to take the leap. So.
Me and Michael, I think.
Michael Shannon too. It was lucky we got Michael because he was also friendly with Blythe, and in the last week they both joined the cast, and thank God. So.
Now, did anything change during the production in terms of the story or, the characters?
I think I wrote, we had the locations. We had a very short shoot. We had a 22-day shoot. And so we lost locations, and so it was hard. But there were a few things I added that we just were like, oh, let's grab this. Or like the scene of them crawling into bed, Blythe and her daughter, Hilary and Thaisa crawling into bed. We'd added that after we shot Blythe and Hilary in bed. We sort of added that later. And that stuff changed a little bit on set. And just, the practicalities of compromising.
There was a lot more to Eddie and Bridget's relationship in the very beginning of the film. And, unfortunately, we had to, get into the story quicker, and so there was a lot of setup that got lost, but I think,
it was there anyway.
It was there anywhere. You could feel it,
It's in the structure of the cells. As you move through post-production, did anything shift there in terms of the balance of this exquisite ensemble? Did anything awaken at that moment of the process that was a surprise?
Well, we did have to trim back some of the California stuff, and that was for a number of reasons, that, and we also lost our DP last week. I had to let go of our DP because of this shutting down after this actor left.
Yeah, we got delayed a week, and he had another job at the end, so we had to switch DPs.
I had a new DP, and it just changed that changes a lot, and, so that changed during post and in editing. I'm trying to think of what else.
Well, the one interesting thing was the whole, the studio, they were very, very helpful with notes and post, but they were also very concerned that scene where Eddie gives Bridget the gift, and it's the ring, and they said you can't have this scene in the movie because nobody will like her. He's giving her a ring, and that's such a nice gesture on his part, and for her to walk away from him after that, it would be impossible for the audience to recover. And in fact, it was quite the opposite, we felt, and that in fact you understand her dilemma all the more, and it's so painful that to us was one of the most emotional moments of the movie.
That's interesting. That feels like a slightly gendered response on their part, but I probably shouldn't.
Well, to their
judge
credit,
them.
no,
but,
and it was men and
it's
women
like,
were in on that decision on their
Yeah.
side. But to their credit, when they saw it back in, they immediately embraced it. They saw
understood
that this could be very powerful, and that's the interesting thing about this movie is some of the things like Michael Shannon's character, he goes very dark in ways, and yet I think once again you see his pain because of the complexity of that character, and it comes through all the stronger, his growth and where he finally gets to with his father and all that. So
Well said.
thank you.
Now, having been through this journey of writing about something from your life, do you want to do it again, or do you find yourself as a writer-director thinking in wildly different directions? How does this shift your creative compass?
What a great question.
Yeah, that is a great
Thank you for asking that. I think if I knew what this would be like, I'm not sure that I would have been able to do it, truthfully. You're a filmmaker, putting a movie out into the world as another great filmmaker that I was very lucky to meet. As he put it, he said, "Oh, you mean the violence of a release?" And I said, "That's exactly what it feels like. It sort of feels like you're in this firing range, and you just never know what bullet is going to come, and whether that one will be the one that is the fatal bullet, right?" So, and when it's inspired by the people that you love most, and you worked so hard to not hurt them with it, to have other people, to not realize that I was so stupid. I just didn't realize that people would be so hard on it, and that I don't think I would be able to do again for my own heart, and certainly the heart of people that I loved. Now, all my family's so proud of the movie, and that was a great piece of advice that I got at Sundance, because I was very nervous about writing something with my family and what would they think, and somebody at Sundance told me, just make it good. If you make it good, everyone will be like, that's me. If you make it bad, everyone will be like, I have nothing, that asshole put it up. No, but if it's really good, it doesn't matter, and people will be so proud.
Yeah,
so
and get an amazing cast. I mean, I would want any of those actors to play me at any point in my life. Like Michael Shannon, sure. Like bring it on.
I know,
right? That's great advice. Yeah. A lot's been observed about that. This is a film about the caregivers. And, you observed that it was very much about how do you fix something, a family contending with how do you fix it. And the other big thematic I got from it is letting go. And it's rare to see a love story that is about letting go, which I think is a really important part of any relationship. And it's amazing that all the characters managed to go through it. This violence of release you're talking about, that you made the film and managed to get it out there. Have you seen it impact people? Have you seen it impact yourself or your family in interesting ways?
I have. I mean, certainly my family, it's opened up dialogues with people that have not been talking, like in years. Mm-hmm. And my family feels like it's a gift. It's a gift because it is a memory that none of us really wanted to let go of, and here it is. But what's been the best part about it, and I think this is the trade-off for being so vulnerable, is it inspires vulnerability in others. And I have seen, my favorite part about the process has been just coming and sharing it with people like you, one-on-one, really connecting with immediacy with an audience. I've done a lot of festivals, and a lot of people have come up and said, like, this is my family, and they're emotional, and it just makes, like, I don't know, it's like, it makes me see how alike we are. Yeah. No matter what. And I feel like right now is it's been a gift for me about where our world is, to see how alike we really all are. So that's been great.
I have to say that it's sort of diabolical what you did, because for people my age, you're going through this either with your own parents or with your kids or in your marriage or something, and so everybody gets whacked in some way by this movie, and that's been the gratifying thing, is how much people relate to it. My wife always said that we should have set up a little booth outside the movie theater so people could tell their stories, because everybody has a story, not unlike this. So.
Wonderful. I want to open up questions to our audience. I guess, yes, sir.
How did you conceive of the metaphysical moment at the end using the turkey?
How did I conceive of it?
Yes.
Well,
Maybe you want to repeat the question.
his question was, how did I conceive of the metaphysical moment at the end with the turkey? And when we moved my grandmother from Chicago, we moved her to Northern California, where there's quite a terrible infestation of wild turkeys. And I really wanted a wild turkey, a beautiful wild turkey, but of course those are you can't get those to shoot those. So I end up with this kind of more heirloom looking bird, which is fine. So it was kind of in and out. But I just always, whenever, I felt very connected to something. There were so many things that should have stopped this movie from happening, and it's like out of this world that I'm sitting here with this thing. And so, and I really just felt, I don't know, connected to something. And my grandfather was always grew up really Catholic, and I don't know. So
But
to
they were
me,
calling each other turkey.
Yeah.
right. And we did. We called each other turkey all the time. And that was the thing that we did. And so whenever I see those wild turkeys just roaming around next to where my grandmother was and where my mother lives and where I just felt like, I don't know, that it would be so him to just show up and be like, hey, I'm this.
There was some arguing about the turkey.
It was
For me,
contentious.
the thing I loved about it was that she had given up the church, and in a way, that turkey coming by, seemed like he was going to live on, or that relationship was going to live on in her consciousness somehow. And
that he's forgiving her,
Yeah.
right? He's forgiving her for no longer being Catholic, and forgiving her for leaving her marriage, and just saying, you know what, kid, you did good, and I love you. To me, that's what it's about. So.
All right. How about this gentleman, because we can pass the mic and then we'll work our way back.
I thank you for the movie. I have two questions. One is, because of the late casting before the shoot, did you shoot a little more in sequence than you might normally have done? And the second question is, the home movies, are those your family home movies?
Great question.
No, we didn't shoot in sequence really anymore. I think we did have to shoot we had to get Michael out, as I recall. We had to
Schedule around. Michael.
he had a very short window to get it done. And
Well, tell that story about when you met him and he held up the.
I met him on a Sunday. He flew himself to Chicago to come and meet with me, and I had spent the whole weekend grieving the loss of the movie, and he just came in. He sort of limped in, and we sat down, and he's like, hey, and I'm like, hey, I'm Mike. And he pulls out his flip phone, and he just pulls out his calendar, and he says, all right, so these are my dates. I got to take my girls here, got their spring break. Can you make it? Can we do it in this time? Can we do it? And I was like, do you want to talk about the script or me, or do you care about? He's like, oh yeah. Where are you from? And literally that was we talked for a good 45 minutes, but he was just ready to, he just got it, and he wanted to do it. And I met his wife in Toronto, and she just said, thank you for giving my husband the role that is my husband. So many of these roles he plays are so dark, but he really has the biggest heart.
Well,
And
also at
that's him.
Sundance, remember he said, somebody said, why did you decide to do this movie? And he said, because I like to feel needed by, and he just knew that
We needed
we were
him.
desperate, and Elizabeth.
Yeah, I needed him
showed
desperately.
that. But this was such a difficult production. I mean, it was, we had no ability to decide when you'd want to film something or schedule it that way. It was.
No.
There were locations that we
We
lost
cut
the day
stuff.
before.
Oh, weather.
You had to, as a
nighttime.
first-time director, what you had to go through on this, I just can't even believe. And at times, everybody around you was sort of peeled away, and it was just you with this desire to tell the story, and these actors supporting you.
Yeah.
That was really it.
Was it? Did I answer both? Do we answer both your
Home
questions?
movies.
Oh, the whole movies. Yeah, the whole movies I knew I wanted to, even when I was writing the script, I wanted to use these beautiful home movies that my grandfather on the other side, my dad's dad was like this amateur documentarian, and he had the big lights, remember those with the big lights and the 8mm camera, and he was always like, and the kids were like, blinking in the big lights. And my grandfather took hours of this stuff, and it's so beautiful. And so I saw it when I was a kid, and then I wanted to use it. And then I shot a little bit of Super 8 on my own, just to kind of get a few more shots to kind of give
Them
it.
carrying to the movie.
The narrative to kind of fit.
But that was
the
a
narrative.
decision deep in post to add these
Deep in
movies,
post,
right?
yeah,
That
deep in-
Elizabeth remembered she had all
Well, I
these.
was gonna always put them in the wake scene, but then I added them throughout. Yeah, as sort of a
Right.
transitional moment.
I wanted to ask you about the psychology in the film, the relationships between Bridget Thaisa and Hilary, and the brother and sister. Intense psychological things going on, and so much anger.
Yes. You're, that's, yeah.
You'd think they were related.
I know, right? Are you asking why they're so angry?
Just like, did you do a lot of thinking about? Oh, about creating the psychology between the characters, or was it just naturally that way, and you were, bringing it to life, or?
Yeah, I think part of it was the limited real estate of each arc and each, you know what I mean? It's sort of like, I had to kind of, I couldn't do too much beating around the bush. But I think that was also a Chicago thing. Like, growing up in Chicago, everything was always swept under the rug, everything. And then when I've realized in my life that when you do that, all of a sudden you can't help it, and the whole thing implodes, and you're finding yourself in a horrible moment that you wish you'd had that tough conversation 5 minutes, 5 years ago. So, and I wanted this to be that the thing that implodes everything. But I was an angry teenager,
Everybody changed in the film.
Yeah.
Everybody grew.
Right. Yeah, it's like a coming of age, right? I kind of was exploring that, like 3 generations coming of age at this moment in their life. Because I'm not of age, right? Like I didn't come of age at 18. I feel like it's something we do all our lives, right? You know what I mean? So and they're coming of an age in a marriage, or coming of an age in their life, and all about letting go, as you very astutely pointed out. So, I don't know.
Hi.
If that answers
Hi.
your question.
Hello, over here.
Somebody has
Oh,
it
there.
right there.
Hi, how you doing? My name is Mitch. I'm an actor, and I have dementia, so I want a part. No, I'm just kidding. I just think it was
We'll do a
a
sequel.
wonderful film, and it made me cry a number of times because this is something I'm struggling with and have to live with. And luckily, I have a wonderful wife who is tremendously helpful. So I'm going to tell everybody about this film because it meant a lot to me. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
amazing.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you so much. Thank you.
A little
hard to follow on that.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
No, that's
I got the
okay.
mic. I
You
thought
have
it was
the
my
mic.
turn.
We'll get the mic next. Go ahead.
Okay. Can you say something about the look of the film, the visuals? You know, that there's this feeling of confinement, and there seems to be a lot going on with small spaces and lattices, and then there's that blue that you use with Hilary, which kind of looks like a Clint Eastwood kind of blue that he uses with her. And also, we've got locks and beds. Can you say anything about those things?
Well, I was really, thank you. I was sort of, the look was always, we kept going back to like a memory, like a memory, like a memory. You know, and I feel like when you think back in your memory, things are always more beautiful than they were. Whenever I think back about my grandparents' condo, the real condo, I always hear clocks everywhere, clocks. And they had clocks, but none of them worked. And I think it's just because it was like a ticking time bomb, right? I think back at that time and I'm like, God, those were the days that I had, the last days. So the colors, we wanted them to be a bit more saturated, and color was a big touchstone for me with all of that. And then
Beds.
yes, the other film one of the films that I was really inspired by was that film Black Narcissus, the Powell and Pressburger film. And there's that beautiful, it's like these nuns that go to Morocco, I think, I think they go to like Nepal to serve in a monastery and spread the good word of God or whatever. And there's all I just love it because it has all this great Catholic, like, visuals, like the beautiful lattice work, and it's like the luxury, the opulence of that region, and the silks and the teals. There's just the color in their films is so beautiful. So I think that was where we got a lot of that. I don't know.
It's really beautiful.
Thank
the
you.
color's gorgeous.
Thank you.
Hi. I enjoyed the movie immensely. It's really a fantastic movie, and I really wanted to ask this question as a follow-up to the gentleman that spoke before. But do you have good news for us with respect to the distribution of where you're coming next?
Well, the film came out, before Christmas, like in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way, that was the difficulty because it's so crowded at that time. But now it has it'll be streaming, and on the plane from LA here, I was very happy to see it. On Delta. If you fly on Delta, you'll be able to see it. I think it'll get much more out there now. Now that it's streaming and you're able to see it places. Where is it streaming? Do you know?
On Amazon and iTunes and Vudu.
Uh-huh.
And I think it's on Netflix Sendaway, not on the instant streaming, but on if you send for the DVD, that you can get it.
On my flight here, I was very happy to see that 2 of our movies were featured out of the 12 on
Juliet
the plane.
Naked.
So if anybody wants to see a good double feature, fly to California on Delta.
Wait, what's the other one, Albert?
Huh?
What's the other film?
The other one is Juliet Naked, which came out earlier last year. And, these are both satisfying airplane experiences as well as good in other places. So.
Nice. Yes.
I love the love between the grandparents. I really enjoyed it so much because it's so well done. But my question is a different one. I wanted to understand a little bit the creative process, because if I understood you correctly, you started by writing the screenplay, and then you went to a workshop, Sundance. I didn't understand that, and I wanted to understand a little bit what turned you from a screenwriter into a director, and how did the process go through Sundance? This is what I didn't get.
I wrote the script by myself, again, on just very much personal reasons. And then through a variety of things, I was invited to go and bring it to Sundance. They do a screenwriters lab. They do 2 a year, but they do one in January. So I was invited to go there and work with the mentors. They have like 6 mentors. Each screenwriter works with 6 mentors. From there, and they'll talk about sometimes making the film and like the direction or production aspects of it if that is what you need from them. But I didn't ever I couldn't ever give this to anybody else because it just wasn't. I couldn't. It had to be made with the love that I wrote it with, and I couldn't. There's nobody else who could have done that. So I really just decided, even though I had really no business like making a movie, I just said, well, I'm gonna get myself some business and I'm gonna make the movie. And so I tried to do that over the course of the several years, just like teach myself what movie making is all about, and learned a lot from making it. And I had some really great mentors and a lot of patience from the people around me who were willing to let me figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah, hi. Firstly, I would like to say that I really, really liked the movie too. I heard a lot of sniffles in my area, including myself. Yeah, it was really, really good. Also, before my question, I thought it was really, really interesting that you said it was very unfortunate that you couldn't you couldn't include more aspects of the relationship between Hilary and Eddie, and I thought that was. I thought that was done on purpose, actually, because I thought it was so perfect. Because when they're sitting at the table and you see like the mother and daughter that you like got this connection with, and then there was just this guy that you meet all of a sudden that you heard about, and there was just this distance. I thought that was done on purpose. So I don't know if that makes you feel any better. That was it. I thought that was really, really great, because it was just it emphasized the distance. But my question was about Nick's character, which I thought was a really, really great character. Was there any specific person or like a group of people that inspired that character?
Well, my mom has 3 brothers, and I kind of took bits and pieces of all of them. But I think as I was starting to write it over the course of drafts, that character, I think that the Bridget character is the nice girl in me, right? The like good Catholic girl who like doesn't say anything nice if she can't say anything at all or whatever that dumb thing is. And I think that's really, and who is a fixer and who wants to fix and heal and just fix everything. And then and is lying, right? In a lot of ways, is not being truthful and candid about who she is and what she says and what she thinks and what she means, like what's in her head, even maybe to herself. And I'm hard on myself about that. I don't like that about myself, right? I wish I had the courage to just say whatever sometimes. I wish I had that courage. Michael is that nasty voice in my head, right? That is like, you liar, you're so dumb. Why are you making this so difficult? You're making this so much more difficult than it should be. That's really what these 2 characters became. With these 2 voices in my head, me not wanting to disrupt anything, and this other character telling me, be a disruptor, because there's a disruptor in there, and you should be her. So.
It's kind of funny that I've never said to you, but you often see with a leading actress and a director, the actress sort of echoing what the director is like. And I see a lot of, in Hilary's gestures and stuff, things that I think she clearly stole from you,
She's an incredible mirror.
Yeah, like she, they look at the director very carefully. Often, it's weird with leading men, they actually sometimes get the same haircut as the director, or it's a weird thing. But I really think she grabbed a lot of your mannerisms and.
Definitely, I agree. Yeah.
Well, we're right up at 9 o'clock. This is perfect. You're the perfect audience. Congratulations.
Thank you for coming out.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Thank you so very much. Thank you. Thank you.